What's going on, everybody? Today we have a new Challenge Rift build for the Wizard, and honestly, this is probably the most fun I've had in Challenge Rifts since the very beginning of the game, and it's really, really good to use. Let's get into it. Skills of this build, and it's a little strange because we're running more than 4 skills depending on the boss fight or the wave clearing. For the base wave clearing, we're going to be running Ray of Frost, Ice Crystal, Slow Time, Teleport, and you can hop in Electrocute for clearing monsters, and then Magic Missile for later on, or you could even just run Magic Missile, period. It'll help you deal with yellows and blues a little bit easier if you do happen to kill the yellows, although I highly suggest you actually skip the yellows, but I like Magic Missile for the blues. Then we're going to swap out our Ray of Frost and Slow Time for Meteor and Arcane Wind. This will help us get a lot more single target damage, and a lot of our control skills don't work against the bosses, but for the trash monsters, we can easily run Ray of Frost and Slow Time, and particularly Slow Time here I think is super underrated because it's going to be twice the duration of something like Black Hole, and although it's not completely hard CC where they can't do anything, their movement speed and attack speed are going to be slowed by 80%, and I'll go into the Challenge Rift in just a moment and show you how impactful attack speed reduction is in this game. Not only that, but enemy projectiles are going to be reduced by 80%, the speed of them. You could run a weapon that will go ahead and negate projectiles altogether with Black Hole, but then you couldn't run the Meteor and Arcane Wind that we're running later on for the boss fight. So this gives the perfect option of both because Slow Time does not have any legendary modifications. Speaking of, let's jump into our legendary items here and talk about our essences. Cause us to become invisible, as well as leaving behind a clone that enemies will be able to target. Really nice for throwing off some of the ranged damage. And then we have Frost Reaver's Garments. This is going to make our Ice Crystal have a stacking chill and a little bit of extra damage. Really nice for reducing attack speed and movement speed. And then we have Rime Mantle. This is going to make our Ray of Frost have the ability to shatter when you kill an enemy, dealing 837 damage to nearby enemies and inflicting chill. This gives us a lot more control when we're killing off those random monsters in the Challenge Rift. Then we have Crystal Guards. This is going to make our Ice Crystal cooldown decrease by 15%. So these 4 are for clearing out trash monsters generally. Then we have the 2 down here, and this is very interesting because we're basically making a mix of a Frost Mage build with a Firestorm build because we're going to be running Windshaper and Unrepentant Gale. This is going to cause our Arcane Wind become a tornado. It's going to do a lot of damage, and our Unrepentant Gale is going to give us an extra charge of that tornado. So what this looks like is Ray of Frost is going to freeze off enemies. The Ice Crystal is going to go ahead and chill enemies for us and deal some damage. Slow Time is going to go ahead and slow down enemies. Teleport's going to leave behind that clone, as you can see here. And then our Meteor here and our Arcane Wind is going to just give us some extra, really insane damage for single target where we can drop a double tornado on top of that Meteor for some massive damage when we get to those boss fights. I want to go ahead and showcase what each part of this build and when you can see me swapping when we get to that boss fight for that extra damage. It is really nice. I highly suggest you keep Teleport on. You could take Teleport off, but it's really hard. I tried earlier and it's really stuck around. You get stuck around a bunch of monsters and you get stuck around walls, and there's all sorts of things that can cause some problems for you. So I really recommend Teleport, but I'll go ahead and showcase all of this in the Challenge Rift. Jumping into Challenge Rift 124, we are about 200 combat rating less than our enemies here, which is a decent push, but it's not crazy strong. Obviously, you can check the Challenge Rift and check if you want to keep whatever you're running here. We're going to go and gather up some enemies, and I want to show you how impactful Slow Time actually is. You can see that they can target our clone, but when we drop Slow Time here, every single thing that they do is just insanely slow, even the projectiles, and this is what makes it so impactful. And then the Ray of Frost will decrease their attack speed, which will decrease their animation speed as well for any of their abilities, and we will eventually be able to freeze them. And with the combination of Slow Time with Ray of Frost and the Ice Crystal, we basically never get hit. It's really nice. The CC is absolutely insane, but we do have to watch out for some of the ranged attacks every so often. This one in particular is actually a really solid Challenge Rift for us to run. Keep in mind as well that if you are running some sort of beneficial effect set item like Vithus that gives extra attack speed, or Bottled Hope, for example, that our teleport clone will actually activate that. So it's really, really nice to use that in certain circumstances. And we have a bunch of blue packs here, so this will be a perfect opportunity to really showcase the power of slow time if we don't die. Phoenix Ashes is proccing there for us, which is a nice bonus in challenge rifts. But we are probably going to die here, and that is completely fine. I do want to try to gather up a bunch of enemies here and just showcase the power of slow time in these circumstances. So let's see if we can gather up a bunch of people. And this is fine right here. You can see all of these guys are moving extremely slowly. And then while they're moving extremely slowly, that gives us time to stack up the chill. And then by the time slow time is done, we can then have that freeze on these enemies, as you can see here. And they are just permanently CC'd. And then if you run out of time, you can proc that clone and then drop your second slow time field and then just repeat the process. And it's just absolutely absurd when we get all this down. Obviously, I'm kind of just showcasing the build here, so I'm not trying to avoid all the attacks really, really well here. But again, the freeze in combination with slow time is just absolutely absurd. And if you time your teleports right, it'll give you just enough time to get your slow time back up when it is on cooldown. And then right here, we can drop the invisibility and then the clone and just continuously kill off these mages. And I'm going to finish these guys off. Hopefully, we can just get this done. If you have not seen my previous video, do not target your Ray of Frost into the ice crystal all the time. It's going to do less damage if we do that. And so in a situation like this, where we are just focusing on a couple of elites, we can just target them instead of just channeling into the ice crystal. And look at me, I'm just running into all the projectiles in the world and I'm just dying over and over again. But that's okay, because we are not particularly paying attention to all the projectiles running around the screen right now. And if we were, we could just slow them down with slow time. And we'll just go ahead and just keep on killing off a couple of enemies here. And we're going to go group these guys up, try to kill them off one last time. Some of the normal monsters are getting distracted by our clones, which is one of the most impactful thing about Mask of Illusions here. And right here, you can just see the power of slow time and all the CC. Once again, we really just don't even come close of taking any damage when we're talking about just fighting all the normal monsters. It is a really, really nice build here. And you can see here with the additional attack speed that I happen to get with the Empowered Shrine, we do extra damage with our Ray of Frost because of the channeling is quicker, as well as getting some extra primary attacks out, which will give us some more damage as well. And we should be able to get to the boss fight in just a moment here, where I can swap to the two other skills and really showcase the power of them. So there we go. We're going to swap immediately to Meteor and Arcane Wind. We gotta wait until all of these refresh their channels, and it is worth kind of planning this out. So Arcane Wind dropping on and Meteor as well. Obviously that was a little bit of a slow swap, but we can drop the Meteor and then get the massive damage from these two skills, and we don't have to worry about the slow time. Slow time actually does work decently well against something like the Shade of Destruction, because it will slow down all the projectiles for you. And so if you are struggling getting rid of all the projectiles or avoiding all the projectiles, slow time might actually be helpful in that situation. The Sand Shaper is also another one that could be really, really good for you to run the slow time. But this will definitely give you more damage against these bosses, which is very, very good. The teleport will help distract the boss kind of for a few attacks here, and then we can just drop another teleport after a couple of seconds. Once again, just to avoid some of these projectiles if we can, and then drop the Meteor as well as the Arcane Wind for some big damage. Magic Missile will help us get some extra single target damage as opposed to Electrocute, which does more AoE damage, but overall, really, really nice. And we're gonna be able to finish this probably around the 7-minute mark, or maybe a little bit sooner. This boss does have some ranged attacks that we do get hit by, even though we are playing from a ranged distance. And we might have to revive maybe one time here because we are using a few of our potions. But overall, really, really solid damage, and we're making good time against this boss. Again, the Arcane Wind here is what's doing most of the damage. Really, the combination of the burning from the Meteor and the Arcane Wind Tornado is really doing all the damage. If we were using Ray of Frost, I'll go ahead and just swap that over real quick here in just a moment. And you can see the reason why we're doing this, because if we were just run Ray of Frost and slow time here, we are going to do so much less damage that we may actually have not killed this guy in time. But it does slow down the projectiles, as you can see here, which is kind of nice. And it does slow down the additional adds, which is also decently effective as well. I'm going to go ahead and just die off here so we can get our full HP bar. But you can see here with the Ray of Frost and the slow time, we're doing significantly less damage than before. But we are going to be able to slow down the projectiles by the monster, which is really, really nice. We are going to pop our ulti here, trying to get some extra damage. The only problem with that and the slow time is that they all kind of shoot out all at the same time because it's slowed down. It's not completely negated like if you were running Black Hole. So that does become a little bit of a problem, and we are just completely getting overrun by all of these projectiles all across the screen, and we are struggling just a little bit because we are running out of our damage because Ray of Frost just doesn't do a whole lot of damage. I'm gonna go and drop slow time and then just drop a full channel of the Ray of Frost here, and then drop an ice crystal. Oh, looks like the game put it right next to the terrain that was right next to me, and because we just went with the Ray of Frost and slow time here, we are going to run our challenge rift at about the 9-minute, about 8:40 mark, I'm guessing, based on our time over here. 9-minute mark, 9 minutes and 3 seconds. Again, a solid completion, but could have been much faster if we were running the Meteor as well as the Arcane Wind. And if we didn't die a little bit during the wave clearing as well as in that boss fight, we could have saved some time there. But overall, a really, really amazing challenge rift build. Highly suggest that you try this out. The control is absolutely amazing because it'll just help you clear out all of the monsters very quickly. And then also the Meteor and the Arcane Wind will just give you that extra damage, which will be absolutely amazing for when you're clearing out those bosses. Hopefully you enjoyed, and let me know what you think of slow time. I think it's the most underrated wizard skill in the game, and I think people make excuses for why you're not using it in PvP. All I can say is that when as a melee class, and as from some other melee classes in the area, slowing our attack speed is absolutely super annoying and can throw off combos, so I highly recommend you try it out in more areas than just the challenge rift. And let me know what you think about it, and I will see you for the next video.